Good morning, 14th of Kislev. Hayom Yom.
Okay. And
What?
can we do this learning in Aliyah to Neshama, Yisrael ben Yamin ben Abraham?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I keep forgetting that. And it's important. Okay, 14th of Kislev. So he tells us first about a little halacha that we need to know. Berachos HaMazon, when you bench after eating bread. So Berachos HaMazon is said over a cup of wine, even without 10 people having dined together. The cup is held in the palm of the hand, the fingers extending upward. Hold the cup from Rabbi Semivel and Bention until after the third bracha, when the cup is placed on the table. Okay. It is one of my father's, the Rebbe Rashav Sichus, in one of his Sichus, he explained the subject, of which this is the core. There are these following levels in a person: the tzaddik, the yosher, the upright one, the tamim, the pure, and the chassid. And he's going to explain each one. Tzaddik is so called regarding his fulfillment of the positive mitzvahs, thereby eliciting revelations inherent in the creative order. Creative order is an English translation for the Seder HaHistalshlus, the chain of descent of light from Chabad, from Chachma down to Malchus, which is also called the Or Panimi, or Mamale. So that tzaddik makes rectifications there by fulfilling the positive mitzvahs. That's the level of tzaddik, fulfilling the positive mitzvahs, which makes rectifications there. Yashar, straight, is so, or upright, is so called regarding the fulfillment of the negative mitzvahs. With the negative mitzvahs, low, note, low means nothing, right? There's nothing you can say about it. It reaches deeper into that realm beyond explanation and multiplicity, into the world of Soiviv Kalaman, the world beyond the creative order. The mitzvahs loisa say. Interesting, huh? The loisa say reach deeper than the mitzvahs asay. Tamim, men of earnestness, a tam, that elicits revelations from a level of godliness at which the taste of the tree's wood and of its fruit is the same. This is, as he says, the co-joining of the or soivev, the encompassing light, with the or mamali, with the permanent light. It makes a joining of the two. And highest of all, the last level is a chassid. And in chassid, there are three levels. A, worldly affairs do not disturb or distract him. And he says every individual can and every individual must attain this level. Not bad. B, all his affairs are godliness. That though this level is not distant from you, that's what it says, it is still not within everybody's reach. And the level third, the level described in Tikkun Zohar, which is a chassid, who is what Zohar says, chassid, who is a chassid, he who conducts himself with benevolence toward his creator, towards his nest, which means that he seeks to unite the Holy One, blessed be he, and his Shekhinah within those who dwell in the lower worlds, not merely to quench the thirst of himself, but also to make rectifications up above, as explained in Tanya. Okay? There's a lot of tikkunim that can be made. And we're going to speak now about the tikkunim that are made by mitzvahs. Till now, we've been speaking of mitzvahs as they are bringing godliness down into this world and rectifying the world, bringing out and reuniting the world from its exile in Klippa with holiness. Today, we're going to speak about the power of mitzvahs upstairs, what it does in the supernal levels. Tanya, Professor Tanya. Yeah, it's a new essay on page 365. Got the place? Yeah. And we'll put them on. New big letters, David, on page Kuf Samach. So, the Gemara in Sota says, David, Zemiras Kurisalahu, you call them songs, and this refers to the mitzvahs. He's calling them songs. And the background here, you can read in Lessons in Tanya and in other books, is that David celebrated his victory from the Plishtim, and he carried the ark in a wagon. And that was his punishment for calling the Torah songs. He stumbled, he forgot the halacha, but the ark has to always be carried on his shoulders. So calling them songs, although he was praising them, was a degradation in Hashem's eyes. Zohar says that, yes, David HaMelech intended this to be a praise of the Torah, and songs. So if you're talking about halachas, right, and he was, meant to be doing things properly, but he stumbled in the halacha. So the Alter Rebbe asked, Mahu hashevach HaKodesh Baruch Hu, what's the praise of Hashem? Kezehu oser amuter. How do the mitzvahs, this is forbidden, this is allowed, how is that a praise of Hashem? So in other words, what does it do to the godly realms? That's the introduction here. What does it do? How do the mitzvahs affect the godly realms? That they have an influence on Hashem and Hashem's hashpah into the upper worlds. So we say, how great Hashem is your deed. Hashem, how great is your deed, Hashem? And we say, great are your thoughts, or deep are your thoughts. It's known. So that's all introduction. So now begins the explanation. Is known. All the worlds, the upper worlds and the lower worlds, they all depend on exactitude in performance of mitzvahs. That's a pretty profound thing to think about, right? The mitzvahs are not just infusing godliness into this world. All the worlds, the Tzilas and higher, depend on exactitude in the performance of mitzvahs down here below. So, for instance, if you're careful and you're bringing a korban and you bring it, that's a kosher animal, and you bring it according to halacha, so nasa yichud elyon ve'olim kol olamnis lekabel yusim v'shefon. This creates a unity, and it elevates all of the worlds that they can receive from above the shefa, the flow from godliness that's appropriate for them. Ve'im shina, and if you changed it, as David HaMelech did, shekibel hadam b'smola. Let's say instead of taking the chain, the blood was passed down from one coin to another. If you took it in your left hand instead of your right hand, for example, or the blood was carried in a vessel which was not fit for that, or there was some interruption in the Kohen, there was, let's say, the Kohen's garment got in between his hand and what he was doing. There was something interrupting. So any small fracture or small impediment, a detail that's not correct in the mitzvah, the effect of this, think about this, it nullifies the capability of the mitzvah to go up into the worlds and receive a chayusum and receive their life force, v'shefim echaya chayim en saborahu, from the life of all lives, which is Hashem, the infinite one, blessed be He. So there's a brokenness in the worlds, in the upper worlds. And similarly, the shortest, when you have kosher tefillin, you wearing kosher tefillin, that's what you're putting on. That's misgalim moichen elyonim dezun. That reveals what's called in Kabbalistic terms the higher brains of Zun. It reveals the higher aspects of Hashem, meaning the structure of Hashem is structured in the 10 spheros. It reveals the Chabad as Chabad, the wisdom, the Chabad of Hashem, as that wisdom is embedded in the midos of the 6 midos in Malchus. Shehem Korachayim, and now those 6 midos of Malchus, when they're invested with Hashem's Chokhmah, that is the description of the source of life for L'chol ha'olamas, to all the worlds. Ubedituk echad, and with one small deviation from that, nifsulim, that whole flow of godliness into the worlds, it becomes puzzled or broken. Umistalkin hamoichin, and instead of the Chokhmah of the Eibishter coming down and investing itself in all the worlds from the Tzilus on down, it departs back up. Nistalkin hamoichin, ukahagavna, and similarly, b'didute mitzvahs leisaseh, if you're not careful about the negative commandments as well. A hilkoch, therefore, amisboinit, one who contemplates, and that's us right now. We're contemplating this. One who contemplates, ma godlo maseh Hashem, how great are the deeds of Hashem, sheberibu oilemis v'chol tzibon, throughout all of the multiplicity of the worlds and all their hosts, ve'ech kulam b'telim, and how all of them, all the worlds up above, and all the hosts, the angels, and all the spiritual energies, how they become ev kulam b'telim b'mitzias, how they are nothing, because they have no existence. They don't get the life force from above, so they have no existence. They're relatively nothing. In relation to one small detail of the halachas of the Torah, which those details are part of the depth of Hashem's supernal thought, the Chachmasei Yisborach and His blessed wisdom. With one little correct or incorrect, but here we're speaking about correct, but with one little detail, kol oilonims mekabli peyusum v'shafam, all the worlds, one little detail done correctly in the mitzvah allows and brings forth the Chokhmah of the Eibishter into all of the levels of creation downward, and they all receive their highest, their life force in the flow. Oi, if you're not careful in the little details of halacha, the opposite, the worlds don't receive the flow that they're supposed to have been receiving from the Creator on down. And from this, one can think, contemplate, muse a bit about the greatness and the depth of God's blessed speech, God's blessed thought. His thought is without limits. Thoughts without end and boundaries. And think about them. How the mind of Hashem, so to speak, the thoughts, the mind of Hashem, is la'ein kates v'tachlis, has no boundaries, no ends. Al-mailas chayes kol olomis, and this infinity is drawn into, when things are properly done, into all the worlds. Just lost the place here. My lesson and case v'tachlis al-mailas chayes kol olomis, and that thought of Hashem has a level, reaches a level which is above all worlds. Shekol chayusam shafei mediktiv echad mimenu, because all the flow of godliness into all the worlds comes from the proper, or doesn't come from the improper diukim, the specificities and details of doing mitzvahs. That's what draws down godliness from its source. And what is the source? The source is the depth of God's blessed thought. Like a hair, he's using this as an example. It's an interesting example. The repository of seichel, of chokhmah, is in the brain, and what comes out from the head? Little hairs. So he's saying even the smallest details of the flow of godliness in the world, and in other words, the flow from God's thought to the smallest details of creation, are nullified from the absence of proper adherence to even the smallest details of halacha. And that hair and skull example is an example. And as is known from what's said in the Zohar, in these two sections of the Zohar. And this was the great joy that David HaMelech had when he thought about the deepness of Torah. Simchas David HaMelech, and it brought forth his songs and all of the Tehillim, which are really songs, and he sang and he played it. Zamer as an instrument, he played his harp, and Maranan, and he sang. L'simchas libo, out of the joy, l'simcha libo, l'sameach libo, in order to cause his heart to rejoice, be'oisek haTorah, in his occupation with Torah, be'es torosoi, in the time of his trouble. Nevertheless, calling them only songs was not proper. That's today's Igeres Kuntur Shachar. So it's not only about Birurim down here below, which is what constant emphasis we have all the time about mitzvahs. Mitzvahs mevara, they rectify, they take the forces of Klippa and bring them back to holiness. But this is something that's not just about down here, it's about all the worlds. Okay. Comments, questions? Cool? All good? Okay, Mir Tashem, tomorrow. Bye-bye.